In the heart of a bustling city, the energy was palpable. The streets thrummed with life as pedestrians hurried past, their chatter mingling with the distant blare of traffic. Overhead, neon lights flickered, illuminating the night like stars in a man-made galaxy. Among the crowd, Maya, a dedicated waitress in her late 20s, maneuvered through the throng with practiced ease. Her dark curls bounced lightly with each step, and the crisp white apron tied around her waist bore the stains of a long shift at the upscale restaurant where she worked. Maya's life was a delicate balance of hard work and dreams of a better future. She had always been the one to take on challenges head first, navigating the trials of her job with a blend of resilience and grace. Each table she served brought its own set of demands: an impatient businessman, a couple on their first date, or a group of friends celebrating an anniversary. Maya excelled at reading the room, anticipating needs before they were voiced, and her warm smile was always ready to ease the tension that sometimes brewed among customers. Yet, beneath her composed exterior, Maya harbored aspirations that stretched far beyond the confines of her current reality. She dreamed of traveling, of exploring the world outside the city that had been her home for so long. She often imagined what it would be like to sip coffee in a quaint cafe in Paris, or to stroll through the markets of Marrakesh, vibrant colors and tantalizing scents enveloping her senses. But for now, her reality was rooted in the daily grind, working late hours and saving every penny she could. On this particular night, the restaurant was abuzz with activity. It was a Friday, and the weekend crowd had descended in full force. Maya weaved through the elegant dining area, her tray balanced expertly on one hand as she navigated the maze of tables. She could hear snippets of laughter and clinking glasses, the atmosphere charged with excitement and anticipation. It was an ordinary evening, or so she thought. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As she approached a table near the window, something caught her eye. A tall figure entered the restaurant, cutting through the crowd like a blade through silk. He was strikingly handsome, with sharp features and an aura of authority that commanded attention. Luca, the Italian Mafia Boss, exuded an air of danger and allure that was hard to ignore. His dark suit clung to his athletic frame, and his piercing blue eyes scanned the room with a mixture of confidence and caution. Maya's heart raced as their eyes locked for a fleeting moment, a spark igniting between them that defied explanation. She felt an involuntary shiver run down her spine, a mix of intrigue and apprehension. She had heard whispers about him, the powerful man who ruled the underbelly of the city, a figure shrouded in rumors and secrecy. He was a man to be approached with caution, yet something about their brief exchange felt electric. Just then, chaos erupted. A loud crash reverberated through the restaurant as a glass was knocked over, sending shards scattering across the floor. A woman screamed, and the atmosphere shifted in an instant, tension replacing the joviality. Maya's instincts kicked in. She rushed to help, moving swiftly to clear the debris and ensure the safety of the patrons. But her gaze kept drifting back to Luca, who stood frozen, his expression a mask of cold calculation. The moment hung suspended in time, and then, without warning, a group of men burst through the door, their faces obscured by hooded sweatshirts. The air thickened with an unspoken threat, and Maya's heart sank as she realized the danger that had just infiltrated her world. The men shouted, their voices laced with aggression, and Luca's demeanor shifted, transforming from aloof to dangerously focused. Maya felt her pulse quicken. She was no longer just an observer in this unfolding drama. She was a witness, an unwilling participant in a world she had always tried to avoid. The tension in the air was palpable as Luca stepped forward, a commanding presence that seemed to radiate power. He confronted the intruders with an unwavering stare, his body language exuding authority. As the situation escalated, everything felt surreal. The restaurant's ambiance shifted from elegant sophistication to a battleground of wills. Maya instinctively took a step back, her mind racing with thoughts of escape, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. She was caught in a web of uncertainty, a spider dangling above a precipice. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, a gunshot rang out, echoing through the restaurant like a thunderclap. Maya's heart stopped. The sound reverberated in her ears, and chaos erupted. Patrons screamed, chairs scraped against the floor as people scrambled for safety. In the midst of the pandemonium, Maya felt a strong hand grip her wrist, pulling her behind a nearby table. It was Luca, his blue eyes fierce and protective. "Stay down," he commanded, his voice low and urgent. In that moment, everything shifted. The world outside faded, and all that existed was the connection between them, the shared understanding of survival amidst chaos. Maya's heart raced, not just from fear, but from the raw energy between them. Luca was a force of nature, and she was drawn to him in a way she had never experienced before. As the chaos continued to unfold, she caught a glimpse of the intruders retreating, their intentions clear. They were not just there to intimidate, they were sending a message. Luca's expression darkened, a flicker of something deeper, anger perhaps, or pain, crossing his features. It was evident that this was not just a random act of violence, it was personal. Just as the adrenaline began to subside and the reality of the situation settled in, Maya realized she had inadvertently become a witness to something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The weight of that realization pressed down on her, and she knew her life would never be the same. With the immediate danger gone, the restaurant's staff began to assess the situation, and emergency lights flickered to life. The atmosphere was heavy with uncertainty, and as the police arrived, Maya felt a surge of anxiety. She was not just a bystander, she was entangled in a narrative that was spiraling out of control. Luca turned to her, his expression softening for a brief moment. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and filled with concern. That single question held layers of meaning, a glimpse into the man behind the facade of the mafia boss. Maya nodded, her voice barely a whisper as she replied, "I think so." But deep down, she knew that the implications of this encounter were profound. The line between her ordinary life and the extraordinary world Luca inhabited had blurred irreparably. She was drawn into his orbit, whether she wanted to be or not. As the police began to take statements, Maya found herself standing near Luca, their eyes meeting again in a moment that felt charged with possibility. She saw the tension etched in his jaw, the way his muscles tightened under the surface of his tailored suit. There was something magnetic about him, a pull she couldn't resist, even as alarms blared in her mind, warning her of the danger inherent in his world. "Listen," he said, his tone shifting to something more serious. "You need to be careful. They'll come after anyone who saw what happened." His words hung in the air, and Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The reality of her situation was sinking in. This was no longer just a chance encounter. She was now a part of a dangerous game, one that she never signed up for. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw something else, a flicker of vulnerability beneath the hardened exterior. It was a glimpse of a man weighed down by his past, a protector who had emerged from the shadows to confront the chaos that threatened to engulf them both. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice steady even as her heart raced. Luca hesitated, and in that pause, Maya sensed a connection, a shared understanding that went beyond words. "Because you didn't deserve this," he replied, simply, "and I can't let anything happen to you." Just then, a uniformed officer approached, interrupting their moment. "Miss, can you please step this way?" the officer gestured, and Maya felt a pang of regret as she pulled her gaze from Luca's. The magnetic pull between them lingered in the air, a promise of something more complicated and profound than she could fathom. As she walked toward the officer, she glanced back at Luca, who stood watching her with an intensity that made her heart flutter. In that brief exchange, Maya realized she was stepping into a world where danger coexisted with an inexplicable attraction, where her ordinary life was about to collide with the extraordinary. The question swirled in her mind. How had she found herself here, caught in the web of a mafia boss's life? And what would it mean for her future? The answers were murky, but one thing was clear. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a witness, and her life would never return to the way it was before that fateful night. As the night wore on, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. She was drawn deeper into the vortex of Luca's world, where the stakes were high and the consequences of her choices would echo for years to come. With every moment, her heart raced and she braced herself for the challenges ahead, ready to confront the unknown with the same tenacity that had gotten her through every obstacle in her life. Little did she know, the path before her was fraught with tension and romance, a journey that would test her strength and reshape her destiny in ways she had yet to imagine. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As the realization of her new reality began to sink in, Maya found herself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. The ordinary life she had known was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the looming presence of danger that seemed to follow Luca and his world like a shadow. Each day brought new challenges and uncertainties, but amidst the chaos, there was also a flicker of excitement, a tension that coursed through her veins every time she thought of him. Maya's mornings had taken on a different rhythm. She still woke up early, the sun barely peeking over the skyline, but now she was driven by an urgency that went beyond her usual routine. She had been thrust into a world where each decision could have significant consequences. The weight of being a witness to a crime hung heavily on her shoulders, but the protection offered by Luca's family brought a strange sense of security, albeit one laced with anxiety. Her new life included bodyguards, men in suits who loomed just a little too close for comfort, their presence a constant reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows. They followed her everywhere, from her apartment to the grocery store, their eyes scanning the surroundings with a vigilance that made her feel both safe and trapped. It was a surreal experience, one that made her acutely aware of the stakes involved. Yet, even with the bodyguards at her side, her thoughts were often consumed by Luca. The high-end restaurant where she had worked for years felt different now. The clinking of glasses and the soft murmur of conversations were drowned out by her racing thoughts. The familiar faces of her coworkers greeted her with concern, their eyes questioning. They noticed the change in her demeanor, the way she seemed to float through her shifts, lost in a daydream that was anything but ordinary. Yet Maya maintained her resilience. She was determined to keep her life together, even as everything around her shifted. On one particular evening, Maya was busy serving tables when she caught a glimpse of Luca entering the restaurant, his presence commanding attention. He was dressed impeccably, as always, in a tailored suit that fit him like a second skin. The moment their eyes locked, a spark ignited between them, a magnetic pull that was impossible to ignore. She felt her heart race, a mix of fear and excitement swirling within her. He approached her table, and despite the busy atmosphere, it felt as if they were the only two people in the room. "Hey, Maya," he said, his voice smooth like silk, yet with an underlying intensity. "How have you been holding up?" "I'm managing," she replied, trying to sound composed, but her voice betrayed a hint of vulnerability. The weight of her circumstances pressed down on her, yet here he was, standing in front of her, exuding a power that both terrified and thrilled her. Luca's gaze softened for a brief moment, and she caught a glimpse of the man behind the mafia boss facade. "You don't have to pretend with me. This isn't easy," he said, his tone serious. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental to Maya. He was acknowledging the reality of her situation, and for a moment, she felt seen. "I appreciate that," she replied, her heart swelling with an unexpected warmth. "But I'll be fine. I've always managed to take care of myself." A flicker of admiration crossed Luca's face as he leaned closer, the air thickening with an unspoken tension. "You're stronger than you realize. Just remember, you're not alone in this." The sincerity in his eyes sent a shiver down her spine, igniting a fire within her that she couldn't quite understand. Their conversation was cut short as a couple entered the restaurant, drawing attention away from their moment. Maya turned to attend to them, but her thoughts lingered on Luca. The connection between them was undeniable, a thread woven through their shared experiences, yet it was complicated by the world he inhabited. As the night wore on, Maya found herself stealing glances at Luca, who was now seated at a secluded table with a few of his associates. The way he commanded the space around him, the way his laughter seemed to cut through the noise of the restaurant, left her both fascinated and apprehensive. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was a man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, a burden that drew him further into the darkness. Later that evening, as she was cleaning up after her shift, she spotted Luca waiting for her outside the restaurant. The moonlight cast a soft glow on his face, highlighting the sharp angles and the intensity of his gaze. It was a sight she found both comforting and intimidating. As she approached, he offered her a small smile that sent her heart racing. "I wanted to see how you were doing away from all the noise," Lucas said, his tone casual but his eyes revealing a deeper concern. "I know it's a lot to process." Maya nodded, appreciating his effort to check in on her. "It is, but I'm managing. I just keep thinking about what happened that night." He stepped closer, the proximity igniting a charge between them. "You don't have to worry. My family will protect you. No one will lay a finger on you." His words were both reassuring and unsettling. The promise of safety felt like a double-edged sword, and Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was being pulled deeper into a world that was both alluring and dangerous. "I appreciate that, Luca, but I'm not sure I want to be a part of all this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just want my life back." "I understand," he replied, a shadow passing over his features. "But sometimes life doesn't give us a choice. We have to adapt to what's thrown at us." There was a flicker of something in his eyes, a glimpse of the vulnerability he rarely allowed himself to show. "I wish I could offer you a way out." The tension between them hung heavy in the air, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Maya felt her resolve wavering as she looked into his eyes, realizing that there was more to him than the mafia boss persona. He was a man shaped by his past, carrying burdens that weighed him down. Over the next few days, Maya found herself reluctantly entangled in Luca's world. The bodyguards remained a constant presence, accompanying her to and from work, and she started to learn more about the intricacies of the mafia life that surrounded him. She often attended lavish parties and gatherings at upscale venues, where the atmosphere was filled with sophistication, yet tinged with an undercurrent of tension. At these events, she saw firsthand how Luca interacted with his peers and rivals, the way he commanded respect with a mere glance. There was an intoxicating allure to his power, but it was coupled with an unsettling understanding of the dangers lurking beneath the surface. One evening, at a particularly extravagant gathering, Maya found herself standing beside Luca on a balcony that overlooked the city. The skyline was lit up with a myriad of lights, the bustle of the urban landscape a stark contrast to the world they inhabited. Beautiful, isn't it? He asked, turning to her. There was a softness in his voice that made her heart flutter. Yeah, it is, she replied, taking in the view. It's hard to believe this is the same city I've always known. Luca's expression turned serious as he leaned against the railing. Things can change in an instant. One moment you think you know everything, and the next your whole life can be turned upside down. His words hit close to home, and she felt a shiver run down her spine. You're right, I've experienced that firsthand, she admitted, glancing at him. He turned to her, their eyes locking in a moment that felt charged with unspoken words. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, Maya. You faced challenges that would break most people, and yet here you are, standing tall. The sincerity in his voice made her heart race. She felt an overwhelming urge to lean into him, to bridge the gap that seemed to stretch between them. But she hesitated, reminding herself of the dangers that surrounded him, the mafia life that was always lurking just beneath the surface of their connection. As the evening wore on, Maya found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Luca's presence was intoxicating, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. Every stolen glance, every lingering touch sent her heart racing, but she felt the weight of her circumstances pressing heavily on her shoulders. In the days that followed, the tension between them continued to build. They exchanged glances that lingered a moment too long, their conversations laced with an electric charge that neither could ignore. But with each passing moment, the looming threat of danger hung over them like a dark cloud, casting a shadow on the budding connection they were forging. One late afternoon, Maya received a phone call from Luca that sent her heart racing. "Meet me at the rooftop," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I need to talk to you about something important." The moment she stepped onto the rooftop, her breath caught in her throat. The view was breathtaking, the city sprawling beneath them like a glittering sea of lights. But it was Luca's presence that captivated her, standing tall and imposing against the backdrop of the skyline. "What's going on?" she asked, her heart pounding. He stepped closer, the intensity in his eyes sending shivers down her spine. "There's been a development. I need to protect you, Maya, and I want you to understand the seriousness of the situation." "What do you mean?" she asked, her stomach twisting with anxiety. "There are people who know about you, about the incident at the restaurant. They see you as a potential threat to my business," he explained, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "I won't let anything happen to you. You mean too much to me." His words sent a jolt of emotion through her. "I don't want to be a pawn in your world, Luca. I just want to feel safe." "You are safe with me," he insisted, his expression softening. "But I need you to trust me. There are things I can't explain right now, but I promise you I will do everything in my power to keep you safe." The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache. She could see the weight of his responsibilities etched on his face, the burden he carried for those he cared about. And in that moment, she felt a flicker of understanding, a realization that their lives were intertwined in ways she hadn't anticipated. "I trust you," she whispered, the words escaping her lips before she could second-guess herself. A small smile broke across his face, and the tension between them shifted, transforming into something deeper. They stood there, the city sprawling beneath them, their hearts racing as they faced the uncertain future together. But even as their connection deepened, the shadows of danger loomed over them, a constant reminder that their journey was far from over. The stakes were high, and the world they inhabited was fraught with peril, but together they would navigate the treacherous landscape, bound by a connection that neither could deny. As Maya looked into Luca's eyes, she felt a surge of determination. She was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, to embrace the chaos and the romance that had become an unexpected part of her life. Little did she know, the challenges they would face would test their bond in ways she had yet to imagine, leading them down a path filled with both danger and undeniable passion. In the days that followed the chaotic night at the restaurant, Maya found herself in a whirlwind of confusion and fear, yet there was an undeniable thrill that coursed through her veins. Luca had taken her into his world, a world she had never imagined would touch her life. The luxury of his lifestyle contrasted sharply with her own humble existence, and as she settled into her new reality under his protection, the richness of it all left her breathless. The first few days were filled with a strange blend of caution and curiosity. Luca had arranged for her to stay at a discreet penthouse, a luxurious space situated high above the bustling city. The view from the large windows was breathtaking, showcasing the skyline that glittered like a sea of stars against the night sky. Yet, even amidst such beauty, the weight of her situation pressed heavily upon her shoulders. She was a common waitress thrust into the dangerous world of organized crime, and every moment was tinged with the anxiety of what might happen next. Luca had made it clear that she needed to stay out of sight for a while. "It's not safe for you to go out," he had said, his voice firm yet laced with an undercurrent of concern. "I'll have someone bring you everything you need." Maya appreciated his protectiveness, but couldn't shake the feeling of confinement. She was used to the freedom of the streets, the simple pleasure of stepping out for a breath of fresh air. Now she felt like a bird trapped in a gilded cage. Despite her unease, Maya found herself fascinated by Luca. The man was like a magnet, drawing her in with his intense gaze and enigmatic aura. She often replayed the moments they had shared in her mind, the way he had looked at her that night, the heat of his body so close to hers, and the vulnerability that flickered in his eyes when he thought no one was watching. There was a complexity to him that intrigued her, and as she settled into her new life, she couldn't help but wonder about the man behind the powerful facade. One evening, after a long day spent pacing the penthouse, Maya decided to explore her surroundings. She peered out the large glass doors leading to a private terrace, the city sprawling beneath her. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden hue across the buildings, and she felt a pang of longing for the simplicity of her old life. But just as she was about to retreat, the door slid open behind her, and she turned to see Luca stepping onto the terrace, his presence commanding and magnetic. "Maya," he said softly, a hint of surprise crossing his features. "I didn't expect to find you here." "I needed some air," she replied, her voice steady even as her heart raced at his proximity. "It's beautiful out here." He stepped closer, and the warmth radiating from his body enveloped her, drowning her in an intoxicating mix of danger and desire. "You shouldn't be alone," he said, his tone serious. "There are still people who might want to harm you." As he spoke, Maya saw the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes flickered with unspoken thoughts. "What kind of people?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "People who don't take kindly to my interference in their affairs," he replied, his voice low. "But they can't hurt you while I'm around, I promise." His words settled over her like a protective blanket, but they also stirred something within her, a sense of empowerment. Here was a man who commanded respect and fear, yet he was willing to fight to keep her safe. The combination of his strength and vulnerability made her heart flutter, and she found herself stepping closer, drawn in by the undeniable chemistry that crackled between them. "I appreciate what you're doing for me, Luca," she said, her voice steady, "but I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," he insisted, his gaze piercing into hers. "You're important to me." The weight of his statement hung in the air, and Maya felt a rush of emotion swirling within her. Important to him? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. She was just a waitress, a common girl who had stumbled into his dangerous world. Before she could respond, a sudden noise broke the tension, a phone vibrating on a nearby table. Luca's expression shifted as he glanced at his phone, a shadow crossing his features. "Excuse me," he said, stepping back to take the call. Maya watched him, her heart pounding, as she absorbed the sight of him in that moment. The powerful mafia boss was just a man, connected to a world that was both alluring and perilous. She longed to know more about him, to understand the burdens he carried, but the call seemed to pull him back into the shadows of his life. As he spoke, his tone shifted from calm to intense, and Maya could sense the tension rising. Her curiosity gnawed at her, but she respected his need for privacy. Instead, she turned her gaze to the city below, the vibrant lights flickering like stars on the ground. When Luca finally hung up, he looked troubled, and Maya felt an instinctive urge to reach out to him. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture that revealed the cracks in his composed exterior. "Excuse me," he said, stepping back to take the call. Maya watched him, her heart pounding, as she absorbed the sight of him in that moment. The powerful mafia boss was just a man, connected to a world that was both alluring and perilous. She longed to know more about him, to understand the burdens he carried, but the call seemed to pull him back into the shadows of his life. As he spoke, his tone shifted from calm to intense, and Maya could sense the tension rising. Her curiosity gnawed at her, but she respected his need for privacy. Instead, she turned her gaze to the city below, the vibrant lights flickering like stars on the ground. When Luca finally hung up, he looked troubled, and Maya felt an instinctive urge to reach out to him. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture that revealed the cracks in his composed exterior. "It's just business," he said, attempting to brush it off, but Maya could see the heaviness in his eyes. "Business that involves danger?" she pressed gently, wanting to understand what he was dealing with. Luca hesitated, his expression guarded. "There are always risks in my line of work," he admitted, "but I won't let them come between us." His words struck a chord deep within her, and she felt a surge of determination. "Then let me in," she urged, her eyes locking onto his. "I want to understand your world, Luca. I want to be more than just a girl you're protecting." He studied her for a long moment, the intensity of his gaze making her heart race. "It's not just about you being safe, Maya. This life, it's dangerous. I can't promise you anything." "I'm not asking for promises," she replied, her voice steady. "I just want to know you, the real you." After a tense silence, Luca finally nodded, his expression softening. "All right, but you have to promise me that you'll be careful. This world is not kind to those who don't tread lightly." Maya nodded, feeling a rush of exhilaration. This was the moment she had been waiting for, a chance to delve deeper into the complexities of Luca's life, to understand the man behind the mafia boss. As the days turned into weeks, Maya found herself becoming entwined in Luca's world in ways she never imagined. He began to introduce her to the intricacies of his life, sharing snippets of his past and the burdens he carried as the head of a powerful crime family. He spoke of loyalty, betrayal, and the sacrifices that came with his position, painting a picture that was both glamorous and terrifying. Each revelation brought them closer, and Maya found herself captivated by his stories. She learned about his rise to power, how he had fought against rival families, and the weight of expectation that rested on his shoulders. Yet, through it all, he remained a mystery, a puzzle that she was determined to solve. One evening, as they sat on the terrace overlooking the city, Maya broached a topic that had been on her mind. "Why do you do this?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of her question. "Why stay in this dangerous world?" Luca's gaze turned contemplative, and for a moment he seemed lost in thought. "Because it's all I've ever known," he finally replied, his voice low. "My family built this empire, and I have a responsibility to protect it. But it comes at a cost." "What kind of cost?" She pressed gently, leaning closer. He hesitated, the shadows of his past flickering behind his eyes. "The cost of losing people you love," he said quietly. "The cost of trust and loyalty, things that can be taken away in an instant." Maya felt a pang of empathy for him, understanding that behind the powerful image he projected lay a man burdened by his past. "And what about you, Luca?" she asked softly. "What do you want?" His gaze met hers, and in that moment she saw a flicker of vulnerability. "I want to protect what I have, and that includes you," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's complicated." "Complicated how?" she pressed, her heart racing as she dared to delve deeper. "Because I can't let my feelings for you cloud my judgment," he replied, the weight of his words heavy in the air. "I care about you, Maya, but this life, it's dangerous. I can't afford to fail." His admission sent a thrill through her, igniting a spark of hope within. "I'm not asking you to choose between me and your life," she said earnestly. "I just want to be a part of it." Luca's expression softened, and for the first time, she saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "You are a part of it," he said, the sincerity in his voice wrapping around her like a warm embrace. "But you have to promise to stay safe." "I promise," she replied, feeling a rush of determination. "But I want to be more than just a protected asset. I want to stand by your side." As their eyes locked, a powerful understanding passed between them, the connection they shared growing deeper with each passing moment. But just as Maya felt the warmth of their bond enveloping her, a sudden noise shattered the tranquility. An urgent knock at the door echoed through the penthouse. Both their expressions shifted instantly, tension crackling in the air as the reality of Luca's world pressed in once more. "Stay here," he commanded softly but firmly, his protective instincts kicking in as he moved toward the door. Maya's heart raced as she watched him, a mix of anxiety and anticipation bubbling within her. She wanted to be brave, to stand by him, yet the fear of the unknown loomed large. Luca opened the door, and a shadowy figure stepped inside, a man dressed in a sharp suit, his expression grave. "Luca," he said, urgency lacing his tone, "we have a problem." Maya's breath caught in her throat as she sensed the gravity of the situation. She could feel the tension radiating from Luca as he faced the newcomer, the air thick with unspoken words. "What kind of problem?" Luca replied, his voice steady, but Maya could see the flicker of concern in his eyes. "The rival family is making moves," the man said, urgency rising in his voice. "They're aware of your connection to her, and they're not going to let it slide." Maya's heart sank, fear creeping in as she processed the implications of the man's words. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a target, a pawn in a dangerous game. Luca's expression hardened, and Maya could see the wheels turning in his mind. "We need to act fast," he said, his voice low and commanding. "I won't let them touch her." As they spoke, Maya felt a surge of determination wash over her. She had stepped into Luca's world willingly, and she wasn't about to be a victim. "I can help," she said, surprising both men with her sudden boldness. Luca turned to her, concern etched on his features. "No, Maya, this is dangerous. I won't put you at risk." "I'm not afraid," she insisted, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. "If they want me, then I'll face them. I won't hide away anymore." The intensity of her words hung in the air, and for a moment, Luca seemed taken aback by her bravery. But then his expression shifted, revealing a mix of admiration and concern. "You don't understand what you're asking for," he said gently. "I understand more than you think," she replied, her determination unwavering. "I want to stand by your side, Luca. I want to fight for my place in this world." As the tension in the room thickened, Maya felt a newfound strength surging within her. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a woman, ready to fight for the life she wanted, ready to embrace the chaos that came with loving a mafia boss. Luca's gaze met hers, and in that moment, she saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of acceptance. "All right," he said finally, his voice steady, "but we do this together. I won't let you face this alone." Maya's heart raced at his words, a sense of resolve washing over her. Together, they would confront the challenges ahead, and in that bond, she felt a fierce determination to carve out her own destiny in a world filled with danger and allure. Luca's gaze met hers, and in that moment, she saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of acceptance. "All right," he said finally, his voice steady, "but we do this together. I won't let you face this alone." Maya's heart raced at his words, a sense of resolve washing over her. Together, they would confront the challenges ahead, and in that bond, she felt a fierce determination to carve out her own destiny in a world filled with danger and allure. As the two men began to discuss their plans, Maya knew that she was ready to take her place in this life. She would not be a bystander any longer. She would fight for what she believed in, and for the man who had captured her heart amidst the chaos. In that moment, she understood that she was no longer just a girl from the streets. She was a partner, a warrior, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Maya stood beside Luca, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension as they prepared to confront the betrayal lurking within his inner circle. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, a mixture of fear and empowerment fueling her resolve. The stakes had never been higher, and she was no longer the passive bystander in her own life. This was her fight too. Luca's gaze locked onto hers, his expression a blend of determination and something softer that she dared not name. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low and steady, echoing the strength she had come to rely on. Maya nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "I am. Let's do this together." They stepped into the dimly lit conference room where members of Luca's family had gathered. The tension in the air was palpable, and Maya could sense the unease rippling through the group. Whispers of betrayal echoed in the corners, but they faded as Luca entered, an undeniable presence commanding the room. The men turned their attention to him, and for a moment, the chaos outside faded into the background. "Gentlemen," Luca began, his voice unwavering, "we have a situation that needs addressing." He glanced at Maya, and she felt a surge of warmth at his protective stance. "We've been compromised." Maya felt the weight of their gazes on her, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She was an outsider in this world, a waitress who had stumbled into the chaos of the mafia. But Luca had brought her into his life, and she was determined to prove her worth. Luca continued, "There's a mole among us, someone who thought they could undermine our operations and put us all at risk." His eyes narrowed, and she could see the fire igniting within him. "We will uncover the traitor and ensure they understand the consequences of their actions." As he spoke, Maya's mind raced. This was the real world of the mafia, filled with danger and intrigue. She had witnessed the darkness lurking beneath the surface, but she had also seen the light in Luca, the man who had become her anchor in this storm. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a part of this family, and she would fight alongside them. One of the men, a tall figure with a hardened expression, stepped forward. "And what about her?" he asked, gesturing toward Maya. "She's a liability, Luca. We can't trust her." Maya's heart sank at the accusation, but Luca's response was swift and fierce. "She's not a liability. She is my partner. If you can't see that, then you're the one who needs to reevaluate your loyalty." The room fell silent, tension thickening the air. Maya could feel the weight of their scrutiny, but she held her head high, refusing to let their doubts shake her resolve. She was stronger than they realized, and she would show them just how much. "Trust is earned," she said, her voice steady as she stepped forward, "and I'm here to earn it. I may not have been born into this world, but I understand the stakes. I won't let fear dictate my actions. I'm ready to stand with you all." Luca's gaze softened as he looked at her, pride and admiration evident in his eyes. The men shifted uneasily, their expressions a mix of surprise and grudging respect. Another man, Enrique, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing in scrutiny. "All right, let's say we let you in. What do you bring to the table?" Maya took a deep breath, recalling the skills she had honed while working at the restaurant. "I know how to read people. I've seen the way they act when they're lying. I can help you identify who's not being truthful, who's hiding something." Luca nodded, his approval evident. She's right. Maya has a unique perspective. She's not tainted by this world, and that gives her an advantage. The group exchanged glances, the tension beginning to ease as they contemplated her words. Slowly, they began to murmur among themselves, weighing the potential of having someone like Maya in their ranks. It was a small victory, but it was a step forward. As the discussions continued, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that danger was still looming. She glanced at Luca, who seemed to sense her unease. "We'll figure this out," he assured her softly, his voice a balm to her frayed nerves. "I won't let anyone hurt you." His words wrapped around her like a warm embrace, grounding her in the chaos that threatened to consume them. "I know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, "but we need to be ready. Whoever this mole is, they won't back down easily." Just then, the door swung open, and a breathless man rushed in, his face flushed with urgency. "Luca!" he exclaimed, eyes wide with fear. "We've got a problem. It's worse than we thought." The room fell silent as everyone turned their attention to the newcomer. Maya's heart raced as she sensed the shift in energy, the underlying current of danger that was becoming all too real. "What do you mean?" Luca demanded, his tone sharp. "The mole. They're planning something big, a hit. They want to take you out," the man stammered, his fear palpable. Maya felt a chill run down her spine, her instincts screaming that they needed to act fast. "We have to warn everyone," she urged, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Luca turned to her, his expression fierce. "You're right, we can't let them catch us off guard." He turned back to the group, his voice commanding. "We need to tighten security and find out who's behind this before it's too late." The men nodded in agreement, and Maya felt a surge of purpose. This was her moment to prove herself, to show that she belonged in this world, not just as an observer, but as an integral part of the family. As they began discussing their next steps, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. She knew they had to act quickly, but she also understood the importance of strategy. "We need to find out who has access to our operations. The mole will be someone close to us," she suggested, her voice cutting through the tension. Luca's gaze flicked to her, a spark of admiration igniting in his eyes. "Exactly. We'll start by reviewing recent communications and movements. Anyone who's been acting suspiciously will be on our radar." The meeting progressed, and Maya found herself immersed in the discussions, her heart racing as they strategized their next moves. The adrenaline coursed through her, and for the first time, she felt a sense of belonging. She was part of something larger than herself, fighting not only for Luca, but for their shared future. Hours passed, and as the night wore on, the group began to disperse. Maya felt a sense of urgency lingering in the air, and she could see the strain on Luca's face. "We need to talk," she said softly, pulling him aside as the last of the men exited. Luca's brow furrowed with concern. "What is it?" "What is they come for you?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I can't lose you, Luca, not after everything we've been through." He stepped closer, the intensity of his gaze locking onto hers. "They can't hurt you. I won't let them. You're safe with me." Maya felt a rush of emotion, the protective instinct in his words wrapping around her like a shield. "But what if they try? I can't just stand by and do nothing." He took her hands in his touch grounding her. "You're stronger than you realize, Maya. I believe in you. But I need you to trust me. Stay close and we'll face this together." The sincerity in his voice fueled her determination. "I trust you," she said, her heart racing as she leaned in closer. "I just want to make sure you're safe. You mean too much to me." With that, the tension between them shifted, the air thick with unspoken words. She could feel the magnetic pull drawing them together, the chemistry that had sparked from their very first encounter. In this moment, they were no longer just allies in a dangerous game. They were two souls intertwined in a turbulent dance of fate. Luca leaned in, his breath brushing against her skin. "I won't allow anything to happen to you, Maya. You're everything to me." Her heart soared at his declaration, the vulnerability in his eyes stripping away the last of her reservations. She knew the risk they were taking, standing so close, but in that moment, nothing else mattered. Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. Maya's heart dropped as she pulled away, instinctively stepping back. What was that? Luca's expression hardened, and he was immediately on alert. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice low and firm. "No, I'm not staying back," Maya said defiantly, her resolve hardening. "If there's danger, I'm not hiding. I'm with you." He hesitated, weighing her words, then nodded. "All right, but stay close." They crept towards the door, the adrenaline coursing through their veins. Maya could feel the tension in the air, the unspoken fear that hung between them. Whatever awaited them outside could change everything, but she refused to back down. As they stepped into the hallway, they were met with chaos. A group of men were gathered, their voices hushed as they exchanged urgent whispers. The unease in the air was palpable, and Maya's instincts kicked in. They were in danger, and they needed to act fast. "What happened?" Luca demanded, his tone sharp as he stepped into the fray. One of the men turned to him, his face pale. "We found something, Luca. Someone's been leaking information." "It's worse than we thought." "Who?" Maya asked, her heart racing as she stepped forward. The man shook his head, the fear in his eyes evident. "We don't know yet, but we need to secure the perimeter. If they're willing to go this far, they won't stop until they get what they want." Luca's jaw tightened, and he turned to Maya, determination etched on his face. "We need to split up, find out who's been acting suspiciously. We can't let anyone slip through the cracks." Maya nodded, her heart pounding with urgency. "I'll help. I know how to read people. I'll keep my eyes open." As they moved through the shadows, Maya felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a warrior, ready to fight for her place in this chaotic world. The danger surrounding them only fueled her resolve. They split up, each taking a different path through the labyrinth of the building. Maya's heart raced as she navigated the dimly lit corridors, her senses heightened as she searched for any signs of betrayal. The air was thick with tension, and every shadow seemed to hold a threat. As she rounded a corner, she caught sight of a figure slipping into a side room. Her instincts kicked in, and she followed cautiously, her breath quickening as she approached the door. Peering through the small window, she saw a familiar face, one of Luca's trusted associates, speaking in hushed tones with an unknown man. Maya's heart raced as she leaned closer, straining to hear their conversation. "I told you, we can't let him find out," the associate urged, his voice low and urgent. "If he does, it's over for us. We need to act fast." Maya's mind reeled. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the proof she needed to validate her suspicions. She couldn't let this opportunity slip away. With renewed determination, she pushed the door open just enough to slip inside, her heart pounding in her chest. "What's going on here?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Both men turned to her, surprise flashing across their faces. "Maya!" the associate exclaimed, his eyes wide with panic. "What are you doing here?" "You're the mole," she accused, her voice unwavering. "You've been leaking information about Luca." The unknown man's expression hardened, and he stepped forward menacingly. "You shouldn't have come here, sweetheart. This doesn't concern you." Maya felt a surge of bravery. "It does concern me. I'm not backing down, not now." Before she could react, he lunged toward her, but she sidestepped, her instincts kicking in. She felt the rush of adrenaline as she quickly assessed the situation, her mind racing with options. Just then, the door swung open and Luca burst into the room, his presence commanding. "Get away from her!" he shouted, his voice echoing with authority. Maya's heart soared at the sight of him, the warmth of his protection washing over her. "Luca!" she called, relief flooding through her. The unknown man hesitated, his confidence faltering in the face of Luca's fury. "This isn't over, Luca," he spat, backing away. "You'll regret this." Luca stepped forward, his intensity palpable. "You're out of the family. If you ever come near her again, you'll answer to me." The man's expression twisted with anger before he turned and fled the room, the tension dissipating as he disappeared into the shadows. Maya turned to Luca, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. "I can't believe I confronted him like that," she admitted, her voice trembling. Luca stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "You're incredible, Maya. You stood up for yourself." "I couldn't just let him threaten me," she replied, her voice steady. "I'm not afraid anymore, not with you by my side." He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers, a sense of solidarity forming between them. "We'll face this together. You're not alone in this fight." In that moment, Maya felt a surge of hope. They had faced danger head-on, and together they would rise above it. The bond between them had deepened, and she knew they were stronger as a team. As they left the room, the weight of the world still hung over them, but now it felt lighter. They had uncovered a betrayal, and they would continue to fight for their future, no matter the cost. In the days that followed, Maya immersed herself in the world of the mafia, learning the intricacies of their operations and forging alliances within Luca's family. She adapted quickly, her instincts sharp as she navigated the complexities of this new life. With each passing day, she grew bolder, her confidence blossoming as she proved herself to the others. They began to see her not just as Luca's partner, but as a valuable asset to their operations. Luca was always by her side, his presence a constant reminder of the bond they shared. They fought together, strategizing and planning, their connection deepening as they faced the challenges that lay ahead. But the threat of the mole still loomed over them, and they knew they had to act before it was too late. One evening, as they reviewed the intel they had gathered, Maya leaned over the table, her brow furrowed in concentration. "If we can find out who's been in contact with the associate, we might be able to trace the leaks back to the source," she suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. Luca nodded, impressed by her insight. "You're right, we need to dig deeper, find the connections." As they continued their investigation, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just a spectator. She was an active participant in this dangerous game, and she was determined to protect the man she loved. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the air only heightened. The mole was still out there, and every moment felt like a ticking time bomb. But Maya refused to back down. She was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Finally, the breakthrough they had been waiting for came when they uncovered a name linked to the associate. It was a name that sent shivers down Maya's spine. a former member of Luca's family who had turned rogue, seeking revenge for past grievances. "This is it," Luca said, his voice steely with determination. "We need to confront him before he makes his next move." Maya's heart raced at the thought of facing the threat head-on. "What's the plan?" "We'll draw him out," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "We'll make it clear that we know what he's up to. He won't expect us to be on to him." With a sense of purpose, they set their plan in motion. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, they prepared for the confrontation that would determine their fate. Maya felt a mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through her as they approached the meeting point, a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with anticipation, and she could sense the danger that lay ahead. As they entered the dimly lit space, Maya's heart raced. The atmosphere was charged with tension, the silence almost deafening. They moved cautiously, their instincts heightened as they searched for any sign of their adversary. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, his expression twisted with malice. "I knew you'd come," he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You're too predictable, Luca." Maya felt Luca's grip tighten around her hand, his protective instincts kicking in. "This ends tonight," he said firmly, his voice echoing with authority. The rogue member laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down her spine. "You think you can just take me out? You have no idea what you're up against." Maya stepped forward, determination igniting within her. "We're not afraid of you. You've betrayed your own family, and you'll pay for it." The rogue's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his face. "You think you can intimidate me?"